How are you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. Yourself?
Good, good. Finally, we get to see each other.
Absolutely, absolutely. What time is it over there?
11:30 a.m.
Okay. So I didn't get you
Here
up
is
anyway.
like coffee time.
Okay. Yeah, I've done that already this morning.
Yeah.
How
How
are you, my
much
friend?
coffee you have a day?
Say again.
How much coffee you have a day?
Do you know what? I used to actually have quite a lot. I'm now on 1 cup in the morning, and sometimes I don't even have that. I'm kind of big into the water thing, so like doing 8 a day, that kind of thing. Try and get 500 ml bottles in, which means you spend a fair bit of time on the toilet, but less said about that, the better. What
Yeah,
about yourself? Are
especially,
you a big one of those salesmen who are just hitting the coffee the whole time? Is that you?
I don't know. Like in the morning, I have to wake up with a coffee, and then
Yeah.
afternoon is my like coffee boost, and I'm good.
You know what? I was an estate agent for many years, and when you're an estate agent, coffee is part of your everyday bread and butter. It's a morning thing. It's an excuse not to make calls thing. It's just like, it's kind of like either a cigarette and a coffee or a cigarette
Exactly.
and no coffee. You know what I mean?
Sometimes when you're on the field and you make sales and you're on fire and that coffee overtakes the hunger feeling and
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
want to take a break, you don't want to eat because you're like focused. So
I
that
mean,
kind of coffee,
I get that without coffee. When I get so focused and het up and energetic and in that
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
zone, it's like a good zone and a bad zone because the bad side of it is I'm sitting there rushing a little bit, too much energy.
Yeah, that's what I used to, and now that's it. Only twice, and I'm good. I'm good. The third time might be only if I just miss that flavor. That's when I choose decaf.
Yeah. Hey, but coffee shops aren't doing well. Aren't doing well at the moment, are they? They're not doing much business.
No,
Yeah.
I was waiting for the espresso capsules for at least like 10, 14 days. I did not know
But
what to do with myself.
do you know what? It's funny. Someone actually posted online. One of my friends. He said something along the lines of, "Yeah, my Nespresso has just broken. What am I going to do?"
What am I gonna
So
do?
yeah, it's like it's
But
well that but that
let's
but shows
hope
you.
this is the only headaches we have in our life, eh?
I mean, we'll talk about it later, but it kind of is a great way to talk about it because people aren't going to stop drinking coffee; they're just going to drink in a different place, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
All
Like,
right, cool. So the way I thought we were going to kick this off is you introduce yourself, I'll introduce myself, then we got a few subject matters to talk about, which I hope one of us has written down. So I'll leave that to you.
no, for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wicked.
so I can start.
You
So,
start, man.
people who don't know me, my name is Alex Razimor. I live in Canada, Toronto. Originally, I'm from Israel, so I immigrated here about 13, 14 years ago. So that's cool. That's why you hear my nice accent. So yeah, I've been doing sales for about, I would say, over 10 years, um, mainly on the field. And during the sales time, I've been always training my staff. I've been always passionate about that. Even potentially they would make more money than me that day because my focus is on training them. And I felt like I made money, even though they actually went home with more money because they're the one who made the sales, but took my training tips to make that sale. So I felt good about that. And obviously, on daily basis, I've been doing that almost every day by educating myself through books, sales in practice, basically being in that sales mind zone. And also, I opened a business, Windows and Doors. It's a construction business. I specialized in replacing windows and doors in residential homes in Toronto and the region of Ontario. So that's it. And in other time, I do mentor training to businesses, including my own business, my own staff, and yeah, that's it pretty
Mm,
much. And I'm very passionate about traveling, which
mm.
allows me to work and travel at the same time. So that passion became like weekly, monthly basis. For me, traveling is my my way to keep my zone.
Yeah,
Like it's like some people, even like people go to play soccer, people do something, this is their release. For me,
yeah.
travel is my vacation. Even though while I'm traveling I'm still working and everything, but that discovery, that exploring the world, for me it means the most.
Mm.
And I've been in 45 countries, keep counting. I can count.
What?
Yeah, 45 countries.
No way.
One of the big jumps that I've done with my wife was the 5 months without coming back.
Wow.
That was before babies. Some people say now you have babies, you can do that. I can still do that, but different priorities. But yeah, so 45. And another thing that I'm very passionate about is for me, lifestyle is very, very important. That's
Yeah.
what we all live for.
Mm-hmm.
Is going to restaurants. So when you live in a big city like London, Toronto, big cities,
Mm.
restaurants is all about, and that brings the lifestyle together. So this is also a big part for me to do. And soccer is off
Right.
now, which is
Yeah.
a big thing. At least I have
All
coffee.
sport.
Yeah,
Yeah.
soccer is a big downsize, but we play FIFA, right?
Yeah, there is a bit of that. I'm not a soccer fan. I'm a rugby guy,
You're a rugby fan, so here we
which they
go.
do a lot of in Toronto and Canada as well. So, but I got some questions because like it was just like a couple of things pointing out. So some of the things that interested me. We'll talk about the Israeli connection in a bit because that's quite interesting. I'll explain my background. But you mentioned your training and that you train a lot of staff, which is something I love to do. When you initially got your sales training, how complete was it? How foundational was it? Did you have to go out and look for other? What was your first experience of being trained yourself?
I feel like, we are, as people, we are born with some talent, and the way to discover the talent is by putting yourself in different fields.
Mm.
And in myself, after graduating, in fact, I graduated in criminology, so not related to sales at all. I was
Right.
not like maybe a salesperson in lifetime, which is a good point in later on in this life.
Yeah.
But after I graduated, obviously, when I started making money, I got the opportunity to be in sales. And then I realized so much stuff coming out of my head naturally, instantly. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa! I even had started having goosebumps about. I know so much, and I've been in sales only maybe 1 week.
Mm.
And when I say I know so much, I mean like instantly, not like no. Like when I read a book, I'm like, wow, that's exactly how I was thinking without reading this book. And then I'm like, it makes you feel like you have the talent, and
Mm.
that allowed me to explore more about myself through that talent. And through that, people face me, they say, oh, you've been doing it for years, eh? And in my head, I've been doing it only for 1 week, 2 weeks, but I'm like, don't want to disappoint them. So I'm like, yeah, I've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I started slowly training them, like unofficially, like a, like a customer apparently has a company tells me, I would love you to have 5-10 minutes before my staff start working. Can you come in? And in my
Yeah.
head is, if you only knew how much experience I have, you would not even invite me. You jump in it, and then
Right.
you realize people like leave you comments. You're great. Thanks to you, I reached X number of income, and slowly you build up your stages. So I never got that official document of sales training. I got it
Mm.
more from my life experience, for my talent, like Messi, is a
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think
like
I think one of the, I think one of the amazing things is like that dawning moment when you're in a training session and you suddenly go, I kind of do that already, don't I? I'm already, you naturally do. And they talk about people who are natural salespeople, and it's that argument. Oh, there's no. I think I saw an argument between Grant Cardone and Jordan Belfort where they're on each other's podcast. If you haven't watched it, check it out because yeah, they take chunks out of each other. But
but
one of the things Grant Cardone said, no, you can't be a born salesperson. And Jordan Belfort goes, no, I think you can. I think that's like people who are naturally persuasive kind of
w-
have figured out some of this stuff already, just in your head, haven't you? Before you even arrive at that sales training
the
stage.
beautiful thing about this that I was planning to cover it later on in this video, but since you mentioned that, is like that people don't realize that we are all salespeople. Like
Mm,
that's one thing that people don't realize. Either you convince your mom to have this, either you convince your brother to have that, either you convince yourself to have something. You're
mm,
practicing sales. Like
mm.
this entire world is built on sales. No sales, no life. But
Yeah, 100%.
people take it as a career way, and people take it as a
I totally agree, and I think this. I often hear my wife says it to me all the time. She goes, "Oh, I'm awful at sales. I'm terrible at that." Employees say it to me who I work with. They go, "I'm terrible at sales," and you're thinking you're a charismatic, charming person. You're not awful at sales. You just got to realize doing sales isn't something particularly special. But I also think that you can find sales training and understanding in so many different places beyond just the training room. And I, after a while, which, you know, I've done a few videos on it, but when I was out there looking for sales training and trying to educate myself, I couldn't really find anything which wasn't fairly obvious anyway. You know, the whole how to win friends and influence people. You do that stuff instinctively. But I found material in places like pickup artistry. I don't know if you've ever seen these pickup artists who are able to, I'll say it in a nice way, woo women very quickly and kind of, you know, sell. And it was very interesting to see that stuff there and actually see it taken the stage further. So, you know, I think sales has changed a lot, and we'll talk about that as well. Because, you know, the sales I was taught in the 90s, and it was based on sales in the 80s and all of that. I think people have changed massively. Social media has changed us, and you need to go about things in a really different way. And just before we go on, I'll give you one example. So when I started sales, I started in health and fitness. And I used to sell gym memberships. And we were basically, I got some really good fundamental training there, but we were taught the order that you would do things in preference was to get a face-to-face conversation with someone. The second least desirable thing was to get a phone call with them. And the third least desirable out of all the three was to maybe end up in a correspondence with them, which could either be a, you know, a letter through the door or an email. Back in those days, email wasn't very big. And basically, not that that premise has changed, because obviously you always want to get close to your contacts. I'm not going to disagree with the idea of getting closer to them and forming deeper rapport and relations and contact points. But there's a reality is, if you're in someone's WhatsApp, that's pretty damn close to them. You're starting to tread into a space that's very personal. You're only one step away from going on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram with them if you're in a WhatsApp. And that's what I kind of mean now. It's like that's almost the goal now. It's not to necessarily get that face-to-face, because who's got time for face-to-face? It's to get that communication which someone will actually count as maybe personal in their lives, and that lets people in, you know. Anyway. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Like people, like you said, like the art of sales, like people see sales as like a very complicated, might even risky. We see sales as art. It's hard to put on someone who is not in that position.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, when you buying painting and paying thousands of dollars for it, you don't buying it just for the, you buy the whole art. Like you look at that, people who paint, they don't paint just to paint. They use all of the creativity spontaneously. Even when they paint and they have a plan, they will actually do something even different. Like in sales, like I'm planning to say something, but something might jump into my head and I will say something else. It's like the whole complex of sales is just so beautiful that every day you wake up, and especially when you work for commission only, which I do, and that's, I guess, one of the reasons it pushed me really hard to force myself to be on top of it, and then realizing that I'm actually loving it. Otherwise, you're out because you don't make money and you're out. But even if when I did not make money, that's the beautiful thing that I always tell people: if you're in sales for the money, you're in the wrong business. Because even if I did not make money, I actually was looking forward the next day to work for free again, because I was actually loving it. It's like right now I play soccer because I love it. I don't get paid. I love it. So sales, I knew eventually I would get paid, but I loved it. I loved it so much that I was talking to myself, visualizing it. I'm like, if I sound like that, the way I sound now to myself in front of my clients, I was like #1 salesperson in my field where I'm working right now. But obviously, then you see this client, you have the cold feet, you have the lack of experience kicking in. But every time I went home, I'm in love with sales, and I'm like, this is me. All I'm thinking is waking up tomorrow, going again and again and again and again. Fail, get up, fail, get up.
Well, if you can capture and bottle passion and energy, and to a degree, if you can commoditize it into your everyday, that's the best thing you'll ever sell. Forget about your product. You know, I mean, I'm talking, this is old sales thing. Don't sell you, sell your product. Sorry, don't sell your product, sell you. But I think people misunderstand that. It's not just selling you, it's selling your values. If you can actually convince someone that, or not even convince someone, if you can exude a language that's sometimes not even spoken, sometimes it's unconscious, but that's a language of values and what you stand for, the way you do things. I think that that's something that people buy straight away, no matter who
Your
you are.
job is to make the product more desirable and wanted.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
it. If otherwise, people will buy it online, but people need that clarification from a specialist one, which happen to be you in whatever field they choose you to buy it from
sure.
you, and they have they might love the product, they don't have the confidence in you, they won't buy it. They will buy the same product but from
Yeah,
someone else.
yeah,
And
completely.
that's what
No, 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 no. They'll buy a lesser product from someone else. That's the truth. If they've got the
that's
so
and
so
then
so
they
I
will,
don't.
yeah,
So when we put this thing together, you and me, and we did this synopsis, you know, obviously we needed to make sure there was a nice bit of interaction back and forth. That isn't going to be the issue, clearly, because we obviously got a lot to talk about. But I'll introduce myself next, just so we can kind of put some structure on it and
okay.
yeah, pay homage to some whatever work we did before. So I'm Nash Cohen. I'm 41 years old. I was born in London. I was in a mixed race family. My dad was Eastern European, but descended Jew, but born here, second generation. His parents were born here, but Ashkenazi, from that background. My mum was a South African Indian, which was very strange. So I wasn't a Hindu, I was a Hindu, which was what my parents used to enjoy telling people when I was growing up. So I was a Hindu, not a Hindu. But anyway, so I grew up in like London in the 80s, and it was amazing because it was like the Thatcherite years. So anything you wanted to do in this world, you could. Capitalism, commercial. It was a bit of a false reality because everything was booming back then. And you know, when everything's booming, everyone's friends. When things take a downturn economically, suddenly everyone's different and not the part of the gang, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah,
that was interesting to see the change in the world. But my kind of, I was big into sport. And there was a moment in my life that kind of changed me forever, and it was when I was 14 years old, and I fell in love with this game called rugby. I was never good at soccer. I wasn't big. I was a tiny little scrawny thing, but you know, I just was very quick-minded. So I was very fast. I was very good. And anyway, I decided I wanted to play professional rugby because it was the Rugby World Cup at the time. And I went to my rugby coach and I said, I want to play professional rugby. And he looked at me and he said, nah, you're too small. You're not strong enough. And I was so upset. I was broken. It was like I was emotionally like battered inside. But when I picked myself up, I was like fueled with something else. And what I did is it created a massive focus in my life. And the next, I think literally the week after, I put a sign up in my bed saying those who fail to prepare must prepare to fail. And it just started me becoming an exceptionally focused person. I decided I was going to become a professional rugby player. So at the time, the goal maybe wasn't professional. It was like, let's get to the first 15. So I just did that. I just trained my ass off. And not only did I get to the first 15, I got to become a professional rugby player, which was an amazing experience. And I unfortunately drifted out of that because I wasn't focused enough. But I kind of took that, I suppose, drive and maybe F you attitude a little bit when people say you can't do something. And I put it into business. And I never really wanted to get a job. I have worked for some of the big corporates out there, some fantastic companies with amazing cultures and who do things differently. Also companies that are really staid and boring and do things the same. And you kind of see their problems as well. But what I've always tried to do is innovate. So over the years, I started up lots of various different companies. And I took the training that I'd got from LA Fitness, which was one of the first companies, big corporates I'd worked for, which was really fundamental, Zig Ziglar, NLP, real, fundamental sales training stuff, which is still true, always will be, but actually is only the basis of knowledge, not the full understanding, you know, and not the application as well. You can know all this stuff, but what are you going to say then? So anyway, I took that and I just kept training all the staff I ever had. So over the years, I've had a lot of companies. I've been involved in a lot of companies, trained a huge amount of staff. And most recently, I was involved with a very large hotel group, large company, which I founded and created. Unfortunately, went into administration last year, which was a bit of a big blow. But again, after picking myself up off the floor, I realized that this journey that I was on wasn't necessarily about an end destination, but was kind of about the continuous path. And I've learned so much because I'm just a reader and I'd gone out and foraged knowledge from places to develop my training over the years. I never really thought about giving it to anyone else other than the people in my company. And I built up these big companies and we established amazing cultures. And the best thing about my companies was working for, not for me, for us, for the team, you know, for being part of this group who just went out to take on the world. And the training that I created was awesome. It was the sales training. I added all these layers of neuroscience, psychology, the pickup artistry stuff, how to influence people like that. And I'll continue to learn. And that's kind of what I decided was after I picked myself up off the floor after my company hit rock bottom and went into administration. I said, I'm gonna take this knowledge and I'm gonna show it to everyone else, and I'm gonna develop it further, and I'm gonna become, like I always do, whatever I try to do, I'm gonna become the best. So yeah, that's it's a long journey. I'm nowhere. I'm only at the start. I'm learning. I go out there and I look at all different sales courses, sales trainers, teachers, people who do business development. I'm starting my focus in sales, but I'm going to take it out to stuff like, startups, how to pick yourself up off the floor, stuff that's happened to me, the experience, the stuff that I've done. I'm not a faker. I want to talk about the stuff that's actually happened because it was really good. It was good stuff.
That's why I think we're connected, because
Yeah.
you're very, I noticed in your videos, you're very passionate, authentic, and right away you got my attention. And I believe vice versa. And that's how we connected.
Yeah,
Small world,
absolutely.
the virtual world made it small.
Yeah, it does, and I think when you suddenly find someone who does have that single connection, like you say, you suddenly fast forward the relationship to actually talk about these interesting things like this dynamic that we've got here. But moving on from me and my lovely long story and all that, let's talk about philosophy on sales. I think that was
Yeah.
the next thing. Talk to me about that, because I think you have. It sounds like a really unique perspective, because you haven't gone a traditional route.
My philosophy of sales is focusing on everything around sales other than the product,
Mm.
because it's like, I always refer to soccer, the best way to give examples. Like, if you have the skills, the ability to play, without fitness, you're useless. So the philosophy is the fitness for a salesperson to execute what like such as attitude, energy, like you just name it, gratitude,
Commitment.
visualization, all the fundamental elements of sales is what, when you train someone, this is what you need to focus on, because that's the 80% what will close the deal. The
Mm.
20% is the product, is the simple things that obviously are also important, but those 20% will become so easy when you focus on the 80%.
Mm.
In other words, the you work hard to make the sale easy,
Mm.
and the work hard is to be mastermind of the philosophy of sales. That doesn't mean only in the zone of the sales. It means that every day your mind is supposed to work in the mind of salesperson, not necessarily applying to your own job, applying to everything that happens around you. Oh, that's interesting, but always like a sales point view. And the philosophy around it will make basically the sales so much easier, and you will be like, you always will be prepared. Basically, you
Mm.
practice in your mind and you execute on the field.
Mm. Do you kind of see that there's a big difference between salespeople who go out there and maybe just focus 100% on the product, and then salespeople who, maybe just don't focus on the product enough?
When you focus 100% of the product, you don't see all the opportunities out there.
Mm.
In other words, you don't listen to your client. You don't you don't actually understand what the client wants. You just focus on the product. You're in love with the product when the client's supposed to be in love with you. And when, go ahead.
No, I was just going to continue, but I was also going to say, I kind of see people doing that so often and just kind of thinking that they're trying to sell something with logic and rationality, and that I always talk about what's attractive, right? Like what's
Yeah.
attractive, and I don't want to get too on the pickup artistry side, but someone who is a puppy dog, someone who is too keen, someone who is always pushy and selling, what message are they sending? I forget about words. People communicate with actions. So when someone's pursuing, pushing, there's so many negative emotions that come from it. They're desperate. They're only interested in themselves. And that's just like just off the cuff. So yeah, I mean, this I think is a big logic. But one of the things I wanted to kind of cast on your head was there's a big difference to me in the type of salespeople you've got out there. You've got on the one side,
Lots of salespeople are in the sales business because of the money. I don't say it's the wrong thing. Of course, the money is the most important thing because that's the outcome of it, and that's what brings back to your table, and that's your lifestyle, etc. But if when you're in sales for the love, the passion, that money would be just coming without you even focusing on the money. You would just realize, oh, I flew 10 times a year because you were doing well in sales, not because you're in sales for the money, because you're passionate. When you're passionate about sales, you're not focusing on the product, you're focusing on your client. Your clients becomes your friends becomes your connection, and you build on top of that without doing that intentionally, but subconsciously because you love. If you, for example, if you have a friend and your interest with that friend is only to get freebies, he's not your friend.
yeah.
Eventually, it's going to be noticeable, and you guys are going to walk away.
That's a
So
very good analogy. That's a very good analogy with prospects, is actually to just treat them as friends, how you would treat your friends.
that's what life is. Life equals sales. Like, this is whatever you apply in real life, and it doesn't go the right way, and you would like to apply it in sales, it won't go the right way.
As we said, life's a sell. Have you seen this question down the bottom here?
What's the question?
There's a question.
What about the theory of focusing on the client to try to cater to them?
I'm going to let you go for that first.
You go first.
I
have the answer, but
you have answered. Yeah. I personally think you want to just stay away from the product. I found I used to give sales training to people, and I would do the whole needs analysis, and I would never ask the budget question, right? Never. Because it was kind of unimportant to me, because I was going to sell them something, right? And that would come later. But I'd always miss the budget question, even in training. And I think that's how you focus on the client. You try and make it personal where you can. You've got to figure out what they need, obviously, but you want to do it in an environment where it's not threatening. And suddenly when the clients...
Exactly. You actually said it in absolutely right way. When you focus on the client, you're not doing it just, hey, I focus on you just so you can buy it. You actually understand what the client needs. You understand
not even what they need, what their problems are. Because if you ask them what they need, that's again one of the very kind of like, well, what do you want? I need? Oh, you need your product.
Like,
but
when I say
what's
like,
hurting you? What's hurting you? You know.
When I say needs, I mean like the client's needs. Like the client's needs, like exactly how this thing will solve your problem. And once you discover that, which is difficult and it's great, and because you pay attention to what the client actually needs, and the client will appreciate you, because right now you're not focusing on what you want to sell the client, you're actually focusing on what the client needs, in a sense of like, how is that product will serve the client and make his lifestyle better. Because when the client, go ahead.
That's it. No, that's it. And I think that's what you comment to right there. It's not so much needs, it's wants, because wants are more powerful. Now they need to have their business solved, their problem is solved, but they want to have a quiet life. Now the thing,
100%. Once you discover it falls, once you discover that, then maybe the product that the client was looking at is actually not the right product that will. I'm waiting for you.
No, I'm still there. Go on, keep going.
Because once you discover what the client needs, potentially that's not the right product that he actually needs. And then you actually give him another one that actually will solve the problem, will serve the client better.
Well,
and then
you know the expression buyers are liars, you know, and you can use that in so many different ways. We have that expression in sales, but buyers are liars. And it's just that I think the idea that when someone meets you for the first time, there's a lot of different walls up, and there's a lot of different, again, communication. I don't trust words when people communicate. You ask someone a budget question day one, it's a different question, it's a different answer they give you in day 7. So I don't trust that question then. I don't think it's relevant. I think what's most relevant is let's get a relationship with me understanding your needs, yes, but your wants are the most powerful thing. So not so much like, let me solve your business problem. It's like, let me give you a quiet life. Let me make sure your kids don't give you a hassle. Let me make your job easier.
Be the client's best friend and give the clients the best authentic feedback. as well if it's not necessarily that he will actually not need it anymore.
Yeah.
As long as you give him an honest opinion, and then that honest opinion is supposed to lead to what potentially will find how I can help you.
Yeah.
But I don't care about what to get you. I care about how I can help you.
So we got another question, man. We got a second question. We got David and Shlomi saying, "What is the most important thing in sales?"
The most important thing in sales is actually connect to your client and just honestly a relationship. That relationship will build you to like top level, because even if that client doesn't buy from you and he's your friend and he's appreciating your service because he's feeling confidence in you, his friend will buy from you. His cousin will buy from you. Your name will be there. Go to Alex Razimor.
And let me back that up by saying there's a cocky salesperson out there. There's a cocky salesperson out there who's saying, no, the most important thing is to get the sale. That ain't the most important thing. It isn't. Because, it's not. It's not. Because if you don't have that, you get one sale, great. I don't want one sale. You know, I'm building up these products at the moment to sell clientele. And I've got a course I'm going to charge a lot of money for. And then I've got a monthly membership I'm going to charge a small amount for. I want the monthly membership, guys. You know,
exactly. The difference between that person and the other one, he's a salesperson and the other one is a sales professional.
And he's a referrer and he's a networker. And, you know, I used to do this diagram called the sales cycle. And you would go and you would put it out there. You'd show the sales cycle and you say how, present, object, handle, object, whatever, close. And then it would come back together. But it's not a cycle. It's a pyramid. It's a pyramid because once you get one person, if you get that person into the right position, it goes like this because they refer and they talk.
Exactly. That one person that you connect with, that one person, you don't even know you don't judge the book based on its cover.
Never.
The wealthiest people can dress up the worst possible, which you don't give them. But that person trusts you, and that person basically connected your entire 10, 15,
I've got a story. So it happened to me. I was working in Hampstead in North London, which is a very rich area. And a guy comes in with torn jeans on. And all my guys go, I ain't dealing with him. He looks like he's stoned. And I was like, I'll deal with him. It sounds fun. So, I mean, it wasn't so much that I judged him or not judged him. I just didn't judge him. Or I didn't even think. I just kind of thought, I've got nothing better to do. So the guy was, I can't remember. Actually, I think it was Arctic Monkeys. Yeah, I don't follow that. But he was basically huge. And he bought a lot of property. I left shortly after that, so I never got the full benefit. But you can never judge a book by its cover. You only ever get slapped in the face by life or reality. It shows you you're wrong. I mean, maybe you're right 7 times, 6 times out of 10, but it's not worth it for the 3 or 4 times you're totally wrong. I say, don't assume anything because it makes an ass out of you and me. Ask you and me. There you go. That's my thing.
There is another question. Both of you sell pretty pricey products and services. Do you ever feel like you hit a wall when start talking about price might be too expensive? There is a simple answer to that. A client will always find money for the value that he will receive.
Yeah.
There is no, even if the client tells you I cannot afford it, it's just an excuse of I'm not gonna buy it from you because the unknown reason, which we can talk about it all day.
It's too expensive. It means to me in my head, I like everything about it. I want the product. It's great. It matches all my requirements. I just don't like the money. Now the question is that really the objection? Or is it not? Is it a fake objection?
Because if it was too expensive, they would not be there to begin with.
So then you got to ask yourself, right, in that position, and here, let me tell you what the close is. Well, let me tell you. Let me say what I think the close is. The close in that situation, if you're in the right position, is listen, Mr. Jones, something like money to a man like you going to stop you from getting everything you want? Is this the best product? Does it match your requirements? Can you see yourself using it? Is it going to get rid of that pain that you've got at the moment? If it is, why are you going to let money stop you? Yes or no? Put him there on the spot. And if it genuinely is money, he'll say, well, I have no more money, my boy. But if it's not, he's going to go, yeah, you're right. The pain that I'm feeling can be
The
dealt
problem
with,
with objections that many salespeople have is when they actually focus on the reason why the client doesn't buy it. Like the client says, I don't buy it because it's expensive. So they actually focus on the expensive part. And then
Yeah.
guess what? They give discount, which is in my previous videos. They give discount. And the client says, I appreciate your discount. I will come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
But he did not end up buying it because it's
No.
not about discount. It's about everything that leads up to the closing. And that's what people don't get. Because they get about, I'll speak to my wife. Okay, I'll wait for you tomorrow. It's not about speaking to the wife. The client will not tell you the real reason because he doesn't owe you anything. But he will make you feel good. And he will tell you, I'll speak to my wife. And 99.9% of the time, they won't come back. And the reason being is because all the fundamental things you haven't done to close the deal. You ask for the sale when the client was not ready for the sale.
Yeah, they're just handing you off. They're just handing you off and they're pivoting off their wife and creating a new basis. So and that's the problem. This is when people don't ask questions along the way. They're not fully in control. You know, someone said earlier, I don't know, something to do with your philosophy of sales. It's to get control of the situation. What people fail to realize is that as a salesperson, no one will buy from you unless they see you eye to eye, unless they consider you a certain type of person at a certain level. I think they have to see you eye to eye, or they have to look up to you. Those are the only two positions that you can control the situation from. If you're in that situation, you can control it, then you can decide the outcome. And if you're able to do that, then you'll never end up in a situation where they say, I'm going to get my wife, because you'll know the situation is there's two people involved in this. You have to have got the wife already. And so yeah, there's a lot of excuses which aren't real excuses. But one of the cool things that is, I
One
think,
of the books I read, sorry about that.
go on, yeah.
Those excuses called smoking gun.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's like a Trojan horse to what actually is the real objection, or what's the real problem, what stage it is. And it's normally the person either doesn't like the person they're dealing with, or they're not yet at the right stage, or they're not sufficiently motivated. And, you know, for me, the biggest motivation, and this is, again, a lot of companies fail to see this, a lot of salespeople fail to see this, the biggest motivation in sales is fear. It's fear of death, it's fear of losing, it's fear of pain. And the fear of pain will get you to motivate you to do decisions that would normally not ever do it. And the reality is that works on all levels, from a place where there is an actual problem to something which is more based on a want buy. So let's say someone buying a car. You know, no one needs a freaking 300K car, but I can make people who've got a 300K car buy the next even less. I mean, this car might be five, I don't know, different things better than the other car. It might be literally 5% better. But people will still pay an extra 50,000 to have the latest one. Why? Because there's a different sort of pain going on there. It's the pain to do with the pain of not keeping up and being seen as the person who has the most elite Maserati or whatever it is. So it's always pain that motivates ultimate behavior. And all we have pain, they motivate our wants, what we really passionately want, not what we need, what we want. And then we just use logic to justify it. And if a salesperson's good, he'll say, well, how can you not take it? It's got the 4-cylinder, X, Y, and Z.
The most beautiful thing to hear, it's expensive, but I'll take it. I own a car, it's expensive, I took it because I'm confident with the person, I'm confident with the company. I need this car, I cannot afford it, I'll still take it, and I'll figure out from then.
I like this question here. It says, so do you believe that sales is a numbers game? Try as many as you can and eventually you will hit. Or would you rather focus on 1-2 clients and build deep relations with them? I think that's a wicked question, and it's so clever. I think that guy's a wise person that asked it. But you answer it first, Alex. Go on.
You treat every single client equally.
Yeah.
You make one big relationship. Do not disregard other clients. Try to sell as much as you can. Forget about to sell. Try to connect with as many clients as you can without thinking what you've done before. Because when you make, many people do that, when they make a big sell, they can go for to restaurant, which I used to do that, and I know it was a mistake, but I go to a restaurant for 2 hours, call my buddies, call my mom, call my wife. Wow, I made so much money, but I just wasted 3 hours of not continuing building my relationship.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking that way, I was not thinking that way. So when you connect with one, connect with as many as you can in that time frame you have, and do not feel excited or downgraded. Just be consistent.
I'm going to buck the trend here, because we are all told it's a numbers game. We all say sales is a contact sport. You got to make as many contacts as possible. That's, excuse my language, that's wank. I heard a great story once, and this was a South African insurance guy. It was Discovery Health that he worked for, and he had the most sales transaction and revenue out of any salesperson for the 10 years before and the 10 years after that he was working. And it was because he only ever had 50 clients, 50 corporates, I imagine, 50 clients that he serviced so well for a huge range of products. Because, you know, with insurance, you can buy one product, you can buy 20 products. But he managed to get so much out of them and focus on them that he was able to do what all the advice that he couldn't, which make less, not less contacts. That's not what it was. Have less prospects and deal with them well and augment everything you can get. So I think there's definitely a message that's missing, which is that people are trying to do a little bit of business maybe with everyone, and that's not the idea. And we spoke about that with the idea that you can get more from someone over the years. And I definitely think that. But yeah, I would definitely agree with you. I think it's a case of being able to contact as many people as you can, touch as many people as you can, and the ones that respond, bang, give them your attention. I look at that like with all the people I work with now, even in like Instagram audience. You want to be able to give the first 500 people you do business with so much focus and so much attention, because those 500 are going to build your next 20,000. And that's the same with business. It's the same with audiences. And, you know, this whole social media world is no different. It's just another sales environment, which with different skill sets and different, I suppose, ways and methods. But the same motivations underlie human communication, which is what goes. And there's another great question here. How do you qualify a lead? What kind of questions do you ask to build rapport?
You go first.
All right. So for me, questions don't build rapport necessarily. Asking questions don't build rapport. But they are a necessary part to doing that. I think the biggest things that build rapport, funnily enough, is body language, tone of voice. I don't actually believe asking words, questions do it. The way you ask them, yeah, sure. The way you handle someone, the way you position them, the way you allow them to speak, give them the floor, 2 ears, 1 mouth, use them in those proportions. The questions, if you want to get down to the brass knuckles of what questions you ask when you qualify someone, I always go through the biggest to smallest. So when you're qualifying someone, you ask open questions because you're opening them up. You're not closing them. So you don't want to be asking yes, no questions. Not really. There's a few you might ask in the qualification process.
The more information they give,
yeah,
the better it is
so
for you.
Exactly. So I say small questions that elicit big response. And I always start, all my sales studios, whatever I've been selling, I always start with, so what are you looking for? Pretty much words to that effect. Because in that one question, they could answer all your other questions. The biggest thing we then go into is, well, why are you looking? How long have you been looking? What's the best thing you've seen? What pains are you experiencing with it? You can then put it a stage further, which I don't like to do because I think these things come naturally. But if you want to create a script, which scripts are great because scripts build up regularity. If you want to build a script, you know, when we find the right thing for you, are you ready to buy? Are you ready to go? Is this painful enough that you need to make a decision now? What's the time frame?
You start off with control, and by doing that, you're basically controlling the questions, and you get the feedback, controlling, and you move on. You move the client on one line, and from the open to the close.
I think
you control it.
You can do that if you have that rapport. And where salespeople go wrong is they look to try to create rapport through words. So they try to force conversation. They say, "Oh, have you had a good day? Yeah, have you had a good day?"
Don't get distracted, because when you're there or there and not here, this is when you lost the sale and the client, you're just a service guy.
Yeah, well, that's my point. And then the ladies now follow up the question, how do you keep control of the client? The way you do it is you form rapport with them. The way you form rapport is not necessarily by forcing words into the process. It's by adopting the right body language. It's by adopting the right tone of voice. And what's the right body language and tone of voice? Well, it's the one that your client's using normally. Unless they're freaking out and going crazy on you, you want to be matching and mirroring what they're saying. If they're in front of you, you want to be adopting the same poses. You want to realize if they are a big, loud communicator, or you want to realize if they're more of a small, introverted communicator. But whatever they are, you want to adopt an appropriate communication style so that actually you match them. And by matching them, you'll make them feel comfortable, you'll make them feel at ease, the anxiety will start to go, and that's how rapport starts to form. Because someone, you imagine you walk into somewhere and you've got anxiety, it could be in customer service, it could be in sales. If someone can take that away, you like that person, you know?
He asked also, how do you keep control of the client? And that's a good question, because the client is a stranger. And when you start with control, that client is in your zone field and he's already in your field. When you control the client, basically people love to be with confident people. So right now, when you're having that control, you're showing the client that you're confident. If you ask the client, what do you need? You show him what he needs. How is it going to help you? You show him how he's going to help him. You let him touch the product to feel it. You basically do the ABC by you controlling it, by allowing the client attendance in it. Not just you talk and the client, okay, thank you, bye. I'm overwhelmed. No, you basically there to help the client and give him the service by making it fun. You make an experience. When you pay more money in the food industry, you don't pay money for the potato, you're paying money for the whole experience.
Exactly. The way you first class as well, same thing.
Exactly. And that experience is your control, and the client is enjoying that control game. He's not thinking, again, play it carefully. If you do not know how to control, that's fine. You will fail, you will learn, and you'll understand what you haven't done right. But at the end of the day, the fundamental thing, your control is showing the client the confidence, and that confidence will lead to the sale, because the client loves the product, is confident in you, and hopefully is confident in the company.
Do you know what I find, right? I got this because my parents were really like, if someone comes around, make sure they feel comfortable, make sure they feel at home, because they're not in their house. And I think that's a really good analogy. It's like I always think when someone comes into my environment, anxiety accompanies the sales process. People feel shitty, nasty, aggressive in that environment because they feel it's an adversarial environment. So with that knowledge coming in, they feel kind of out of their comfort zone sometimes, which is why they can act like prospects can sometimes act. And the thing to do is to think, okay, well, they're coming into my house, acknowledge that, listen, if you came into my house now, Alex, I'd be conscious you've just arrived from Canada. You probably don't want to put me out, but I want to exude the fact, look, I'm a welcoming guy, Alex. Don't worry about it, man. Stick your feet up on the sofa. My place is yours, right?
Perfect. When you come to my home, you feel comfortable. I will make you feel comfortable, but I'm in control.
Yeah, exactly.
But you feel comfortable even though you know I'm in control.
But I tell you what, I wouldn't feel comfortable is if you left me alone and I didn't know what was going to happen next, and then suddenly an alarm went off, and then you looked at me and and that's kind of my point. Anxiety comes because you don't know what's going to happen next. So as long as you then control the situation and say, right, we formed rapport, you feel comfortable, you're in my hands, you're safe. This is what's going to happen next, and then the person, if you've done it right, will say, yeah, let's go on this journey to the destination of sales. We've got another question. What's your cold call technique? That's tough.
Cold call techniques in relation to what? To make the sale?
You can't ask back. This was live. You just got to come up with an answer on the spot that wows her.
Sounds good. So
Go for it.
What is your cold call technique?
Yes.
For example, in relation to my job, for example, like windows and doors replacement, my cold call technique is calling the streets that we did provide already installation in that street, and to mention that in the first 5-10 seconds, hi, my name is this and that, we have done an installation on your street and we are providing an ABC, a promotion, etc., and they might be interested. And that cold call already builds confidence for why that 5 seconds is very important, because to build the confidence, because obviously don't bother me, hang up. So that 5 seconds is like, we have done installation on your street. Okay, tell me more. Okay.
Very good.
So that's based on so every cold call you need to apply, basically, in other words, to make it general, the first 5 seconds, make it count.
Yeah. Do you know what? I don't even think I can get better than that. I would never profess to be the biggest cold calling expert. I've done a lot of it. But one of the things I used to do, and it's tough sometimes cold calling's tough. It don't get any bare no bones about it. It's tough. Some of the things you sell, whether it's windows, whether it's insurance, whether it's sales, it's one of the toughest environments. One of the things I always like to do is differentiate myself somehow. And that would normally be by trying, firstly, not to sound like a cold caller, not to sound like robotic, uniform, same way, to kind of think, like, almost like we're chatting now. I'd almost want to be like able to move into that kind of feel or vernacular with someone. But I would often try and throw them. So, mention something strange. So have you had a few folk cold calls today already, maybe, and if they go, oh yeah, I have, well, don't worry, this isn't one, but, and then just try and continue the conversation. I just found humor would often get me off on a better footing.
Another good technique that is actually very good technique. If you cold call someone and he's not answering, usually people leave too much information in the voicemail. And when you leave me too much information, I already got the information, I will not call you back, because if I call you back, it means that, okay, I really need it. But when you leave a voice message voicemail, that's the best technique. Sometimes you prefer to a client not to answer and to call you back. You basically say something, but you don't complete. You leave the curiosity there.
Lovely.
And you hang up.
Yeah.
Why? Because what kills us in life is the curiosity. Tell me more. Tell me more.
No, you are 100% right. And I see this in sales all the way through. And I look back on my years of kind of in business and think, over the years, we've gone from throwing a load of information onto websites from a marketing perspective, cramming it full of info, to realizing that it's not impactful and actually you just need to leave a little bit. And even as a salesperson, we sometimes provide too information. We give too much access. So, when I saw property websites, jumping up out of everywhere, and they had all these resources, they showed everything to someone, but they didn't necessarily capture their contact details. I actually, when I created my company in South Africa, created a platform which allowed you to see most of the resources. But if you wanted the virtual tours, if you wanted the PDF brochure, if you wanted, I don't know, something else maybe funky we did, like the gas certificate, if you wanted the extra stuff, you had to register. And we got so many people registered because we were offering something. And I think that's a bit of a lesson for sales as well. You can expand your database in a very clever way by offering something of value. At the end of the day, no one likes people who get bombarded with junk mail or anything, but marketing is allowed by people who let you in for. Have you ever walked away from a sale knowing that the product is not right for the person, even though they want to buy it?
We are all a human. We all learn from experiences. Back in the day, maybe I did sell, obviously, things that I know not necessarily the best for the product, the client, but obviously you're younger. When you're younger, your lack of experience and you want to make money. So sometimes you've done those mistakes. But
true.
To be authentic and to be good with yourself and live good and wake up good with gratitude, and karma is a big thing, especially in sales. Sales equals karma. If you're a bad person, scammer in sales, karma will hit you and you will not survive. So back to your question, if the client doesn't need something, and I think it's not good for them, I will never sell them.
I mean, we've been kind of saying this the whole way through in many ways. It's got to be relationship over the sale. It's got to be long term. It's got to be long.
Exactly. I will sell them, but at the end of the day, you're a liar and there is no relationship. So what's the point? Short term, I'm okay. And then long term, I'm nothing. And you look
I've had things where I've done what I think was right by someone, gone really hard, and then had an argument with that person and thought, oh, they're not, they're not interested in talking to me anymore. And then I found that person's gone and referred me to 20 people, even though we had an argument, because I was doing the right thing. And I think, when you can get the chance to show integrity, and here's the real deal. It is yourself, but that's the real sale. The real sale is, there's someone here who's got integrity, someone who's going to be around for 20 years. You might not sell windows. Tomorrow you might be selling ships to someone, and that person might be buying ships. And I think that's the biggest sale of all. Someone who's not interested in the sale is the person you want to do business with. And I take it back to the pickup artistry work and education that I looked at. No one is attractive who chases someone. Someone who is attractive is someone who's desired, who doesn't run around like a puppy dog, who's 100%. Seen as someone going off in life and doing their own thing and having values, and you want to be near them, not they're running after you. And that's a really good metaphor, I think, for salespeople. Because how many salespeople have you got running after you right now? You got so many. So I think
that's a good point. That's a good point. What about back-to-back sales? Back-to-back sales, assuming from the same client, is
no. He's talking business to business, I think.
business to business sales. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Corporate.
Again, you're more in like about what about business to business sales?
Yeah, I
Maybe
think because
I think in
because
relation to the call techniques, the call I think he meant it about the call technique.
well, with cold calls, right? Well, then, yeah, I'd love to talk about this. This is interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
I've done this. I've done this my whole career. I have taken ideas that were in my head. I have gone and put those ideas on paper. I then realized I needed to sell it. So I've gone created marketing. I've then gone and formed databases. I started by doing it with the yellow pages, which are those big books I used to deliver to your house with all the businesses in. And I put all the information from the yellow pages into and what was an Excel spreadsheet, although I'm sure it wasn't back then. And we'd put all those things in, you put telephone numbers and you call and you'd write your result. And that is where you start. You have to keep going with that. You have to build a database of information. You have to go through each one and you have to try and get to the stage we're talking about where you have a relationship and you're in the WhatsApp account of someone and in a group account of someone because you've got such a great relationship. But that starts with pulling their number off of a website database, off a Google search, off LinkedIn. One of the great things that's changed now, okay, and I'm going to take some cool stuff now. One of the great things that's changed now is that you can reach anyone in a second. And recently, over the last 6 months, I've been working with various different businesses where I've had to go out and break new ground where I hadn't before. And you go and you contact them on LinkedIn, and you may not get a response immediately because not everyone's that active on LinkedIn, but you get a response within 2 or 3 weeks sometimes. And eventually, sometimes I even get a response 3 months later. But my point being, there's so many different ways to do it. And one of the ways actually you can use LinkedIn very effectively is go and create some very specific marketing. Okay, if your product is niche, even if your product's not niche, even if your product's broad, go and create some very niche marketing that specifically helps a certain type of sector. Okay, whatever that may be. Focus on that sector's pain. What's causing it pain? There's so many out there right now that are in pain that you could do this easily. So you go and focus on the pain, create a short marketing video, then go and pay LinkedIn to go and have the directors of 200 companies have that advert put in front of them. There is never more direct and relevant type of marketing that you could do for your business to create a process where someone picks up the phone to you. And I've done that a few times on LinkedIn. And the results being that directors of big companies have picked up the phone and said, "Oh, hi, we'd like to do business." So it's possible and it's doable. So business to business sales starts with that. But honestly, it's no different to calling up someone for selling them window glazing. Insurance is exactly the same thing. You're calling up, you're trying to break through a barrier that someone else has put up, a wall, and you've got to find a way through it, break through it. And if you do, what's on the other side is an amazing relationship of responsiveness and interactivity and business, you know?
Absolutely. By the way, guys, thank you for the great questions. And
Mm.
again, through your questions, obviously, even though we answer, we also learn a lot, which is great. And if you want, because obviously I think live is 1 hour, is it? It's
Yeah, I
about
think so. How long have we been going? Yeah, we're about to finish then, I guess. Yeah.
yeah. So let's just finish it up with how do you see yourself in the next 12 years?
12 years. 12 years. All right.
Sorry, 12 months. 12
12
months.
months. Yeah. Okay. In the next 12 months, I would like to have established myself as a thought leader in sales, business growth, strategy. I'd like to have earned some money from it because it's a completely new thing for me. And I would like to have started to help people. What about you?
Absolutely. Expand my business, the construction business, and start the online sales courses, which is soon I'm gonna launch it.
Brilliant.
And obviously invest in 1 or 2 more real estate. You know, we live in big cities, so that's
Yep.
a good future for our kids. And maybe finally watch soccer.
It's going to happen eventually. I'm sure I'll get a rugby game.
Yes.
Listen.